The governor fiddles while cities burn. What an eventful week for advocacy, yet the governor remains tone-deaf, acknowledging a school funding crisis in the general press while asking the communities most harmed by it to wait. State leaders openly concede that Connecticut's school funding system is broken, even as they deflect responsibility. Through commissions, studies, and selective narratives, cities don't live in white papers or listening tours. We live in budgets, layoffs, and closures. While party insiders are protected from consequence, voters in our cities are left absorbing the damage of delay. As I marched on tax day dressed as a billionaire, delivering postcards demanding tax equity, the contrast could not have been clearer. Outside, voters were demanding schools that function. Inside, a library in the wealthy town of Westport, the governor chose not to confront the state's role in chronic underfunding. Instead, he redirected blame toward Bridgeport's governance, relying on a selective and misleading talking point to change the subject. When asked about laid-off librarians, he did not acknowledge that districts have been forced into impossible decisions after years of inflation, blind state budgets. He shifted the narrative away from state responsibility and toward insinuations of local failure. He stated that money is wasted on administration in Bridgeport. This is outright untrue. Bridgeport ranks among the leanest administration on a per-pupil basis. Don't black and brown students deserve the same supports as the governor's hometown and the Gold Coast? That same deflection is embedded in the numbers now being offered as solutions. The governor has floated $100 million to $150 million as a minimum investment in education this session. In reality, that figure functions more as optics than outcomes. Hartford and Bridgeport alone need roughly $180 million simply to remain afloat, not to expand programs. Not to innovate, but just to prevent further collapse. When a statewide proposal cannot even stabilize the cities, it does not meet the scale of the crisis it claims to address. It manages perception while postponing accountability. When the consequences of that underfunding can no longer be denied, a familiar sequence follows. The state intervenes in Hartford and Bridgeport, the two largest, blackest and brownest school districts in Connecticut, only after years of deliberate funding neglect have weakened our ability to function. That order matters. Chronic denial of equitable funding creates predictable instability. That instability is then cited as justification for takeover. The original cause is obscured, while the harm is blamed on the communities forced to operate under impossible conditions. State intervention does more than assume operational control. It displaces voters. Residents who elect local boards, attend meetings, and advocate for their schools are lied to and told their governance has failed, even though the financial conditions producing that failure were imposed at the state level. Democratic accountability is with oversight. Communities already denied adequate funding lose meaningful control over their schools as well. That is the final deflection. Deny equitable resources, then deny agency when the consequences appear. This is not a Bridgeport problem or a Hartford problem. It is a statewide inequity problem that hits non-affluent districts hardest because the funding formula refuses to keep pace with inflation. Wealthier towns can absorb delay, cities cannot. When inflation goes unfunded year after year, the outcome is predictable and profoundly unequal. Even if the language used to justify it sounds neutral, the governor still has a choice. He can continue cozying up to party insiders, attending fundraisers and creating misleading narratives for his election, or he can turn his attention to the voters in Connecticut cities, who are about to bear the real cost of delay. Elections are not won in donor rooms alone. They are decided in neighborhoods where parents watch their schools lose librarians, counselors, and core services, and where entire school buildings will soon be closed. Not because communities failed, but because the state did. When the coming budget cycle delivers widespread cuts and closures across major cities, voters will know exactly who acknowledged the crisis and who acted and who hid behind studies while damage mounted. Hartford, Bridgeport, and other cities are not asking for sympathy. They are asking for action before harm becomes permanent. Governors do not lose cities overnight. They lose them when families feel ignored, blamed, and disenfranchised by a system that studies their pain while allowing it to deepen. If that continues, cities will not quietly overlook the damage when it counts at the ballot box. The path forward does not run through commissions or party insiders. It runs through voters, It runs through fully funded schools, and it runs through acting now before studying the crisis cost the governor, the cities, and the election. Joe Sokolovic, Vice Chair, Bridgeport. BOE opinions are my own. The facts are everyone's.